Rick Dalton's house.
Yeah,
Because Rick had pissed them off. So then they decided, fuck it, let's go to Rick Dalton's house.
Oh, that's going to be a preamble. Oh, sorry.
No, my preamble. I got my preamble. Let me find it.
All right. Well, let me introduce the show. Hello, and welcome back to Movie Beaters with the Farx brothers. I'm Kirk.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're still here with actor
Paul Economon.
I want to hear him say it.
Paul Economon.
Very good.
The iguana man himself,
Yes.
Paul Economon.
I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business.
Nah, it was some other shit.
Yeah.
No, that was it.
No. That's what Brad Pitt says in response to him.
No.
Some dumber.
Something dumber than
You
that.
were on a horsey.
Yeah, that's right. That's a bad. I gotta admit, but he's tripping on acid.
No, I've started saying horsey because of how Brad Pitt says horsey
You
in
were
this
on
movie.
a horsey.
He's more excited about it. He's like, oh, you were on a horse because he likes horses and
Well,
dogs.
he's tripping on acid. He's laughing. Everybody, they're looking at him like, what the fuck? We got a gun, we got 2 knives on you, and you're just laughing.
My thought is that the acid time traveled him to everything everywhere.
This is true. This is the thing. That is so true. I'm
What
not
do you
arguing with
mean?
you.
What do you
Is
mean?
that he is tripping on acid, and this has changed the whole fucking universe. And in reality, this didn't happen. That is a whole freaking thing.
Well, that's actually the argument with the Bruce Lee scene is that it doesn't actually happen and that you can tell from visual
This
cues.
movie's not based on real people, right? I mean, Sharon Tate's real, but...
Well, there's lots of real people in the movie, but it's like Inglourious Bastards because they kill Hitler in Inglourious Bastards and then Sharon Tate doesn't get killed in this because, like Paul was saying in the preamble, is they don't...
But Bruce Lee doesn't get beaten, quote unquote.
Well,
I mean,
they cut the scene because in the full there's a 4-hour version of this film.
Wow.
4 fucking hours of a film. I mean, I want to see it.
If it lasts for over 4 hours, you're supposed to see a doctor.
Well, what I'm saying is it's like Kill Bill, right? I mean, he made Kill Bill, and it was supposed to be one film, but it was too long, so he made it into 2 films. So this film is 4 hours, and there's a whole scene where Brad Pitt's character just beats the shit out of Bruce Lee. At least in the story.
Well, no, it's in the movie, but
No, they didn't beat the shit out of him. And
he throws him into the car.
Well, it was 2 out of 3. So what happened was is Bruce chops him. So Brad knows. Brad's character knows that he wants to see what Bruce is going to show him. So he allows himself to get kicked and lands on his butt.
Yeah.
And you can just tell, poof, oh, all right, Kato. And he calls him Kato. So he's already slamming him. Let's see what else you got. And he knows that Kato, Bruce Lee, is going to come back with the same thing because he's just seen it as being successful. But Brad knows that he did it on purpose. So when Kato comes in, when Bruce Lee comes in for the next chop or next kick, Brad's ready and he throws him into the car. Toosh. And then they come back again, and then they're starting to spar, and you can see in their sparring that Brad is really kind of getting the upper hand on him, and then
Randy's wife comes in.
The
stunt double of Uma Thurman in Kill Bill.
Exactly, who is an Australian stunt double, and she was in the Road
Vanishing Point movie he made.
It's
in it. It was called. Grindhouse was the name of the movie.
Yeah,
when it was
but no, she was in the other one too because she was on the car. What's the name of the?
Well, it's called Grindhouse. It's
that's the series that they were in. But
Death Proof.
Death Proof. Yes. So she was in Death Proof, and she's the blonde in Death.
Oh, okay, yeah, because Death Proof is also a separate movie within
the Grindhouse series.
Third reel.
Yeah, exactly.
Replaced.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. Are you aware of this? Like, you could buy a DVD of Death Proof that has 25 more minutes than what it had in Grindhouse, because Grindhouse intentionally leaves out a reel, but they still shot that reel and then released both movies separately.
He felt that's how the films were back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see a lot of the when you watch Death Proof. I mean, there's pieces missing, and it jumps, and then the sound skips, and it's which is I feel like that is his worst film. Personally.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of how I would...
Death Proof, yeah.
What I would bait as his worst movie. I might say Reservoir Dogs. I got to go back 10 steps though to when I said Brad Pitt waves his finger. I like your argument that he actually changed reality by smoking the acid. But I was going to joke that Everything Everywhere All at Once, when the hot dog fingers happened, that Brad Pitt actually saw a hot dog finger because he saw that future. Taking 2 steps forward from where we were in the conversation when we talked about Bruce Lee, there is an argument that Brad Pitt is misremembering what happened if he even had an interaction with Kato, Bruce Lee, on that set, because he has just climbed up on the roof of Leonardo DiCaprio's house.
Fix the antenna.
And then he remembers the scenario with his now deceased wife, and then she talks about him being a loser, and then it cuts back to when he had that,
interaction with Bruce Lee.
So the argument is that he's misremembering, and he's like, I'm drinking this beer, and I remember when I kicked Bruce Lee's, but he didn't actually kick Bruce Lee's ass. There's an argument for an interpretation of the scenes that.
Well, something happened because, and here's an interesting thing, is that Leonardo refers to Kurt Russell as a gaffer.
Yeah.
And a gaffer...
No, he says the gaffer is friends with Randy, who is Kurt Russell.
And so, but what does that got to do with... A gaffer doesn't have... He's electrical. He's not going to have any say in what a stuntman or an extra or any of the actors are going to do on a film.
No, but it was because...
He says he's a friend of the gaffer who gaffs this film. So that's a quote. And so what difference does it make if the gaffer is... He's got nothing to do with what a stunt. Who's going to hire the stuntman?
A crew talks, and if the stuntman is talking shit about Brad Pitt to the gaffer.
But to get back to your point, if he's remembering it wrong, that could be. But something happened. Something did occur.
I agree. Something happened. I'm saying that it avoids the issue of Quentin Tarantino being accused of being racist because he's misrepresenting Bruce Lee. You've not heard that argument?
Well,
people argued that at the time of this movie's release.
Because he lost the fight?
Well, I don't know if they were calling it racism. Yeah. They were saying that they were selling Bruce Lee's legacy because Bruce, was an amazing athlete, and he brought martial arts to the United States.
Yes.
Before him, nobody was doing, everybody wanted kung fu fighting. All that was Bruce Lee. Everything was started by Bruce Lee. He brought it all here. And as Bruce Lee said to Joe Rogan, the only person that has an argument with me is Bruce Lee's daughter, and everybody else can suck a dick.
That is what Quentin said to
Joe Rogan
podcast. Yes, yeah. I was going to refer to him as somebody. Yeah, I heard that interview and I listened to it.
And it's kind of. I can see both points to that. He's changing the story because he's a story changer. He's a writer. It's fantasy. I'll take this as fantasy. And he doesn't really do anything that bad. And we do see Bruce Lee later on. Teaching Sharon Tate how to fight, and then we see him sparring with
the neighbor.
No, with
Sharon Tate's friend.
Yeah,
Emilio.
Sebring, the haircut guy. Yes, her ex-boyfriend, by the way.
Yes, she has a type.
And so he's in. I think people are a little bit too sensitive about it, because again, I don't think that he looked that arrogant. He did look kind of pompous. And he says, he goes, if there was a fight, if I really was to fight Cassius Clay, I would kick his ass,
He says you'd kill him.
I'd kill him, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate what, Cliff is he's having wit of the doorstep in that he's imagined it. There's an argument for this didn't happen this way.
Whose argument is that? Is that your argument, or is that something you read? Or let's argue me. Give me the argument so that I can.
The argument is because you see a bunch of guys standing around earlier, and then the guys aren't there.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
A shot when Randy's wife comes.
Oh, they've disappeared. I didn't catch that. There is laughter and some voices off camera which don't kind of match, that I question, but I didn't really take a deep dive into it.
I'll give a separate argument too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. So I can see where you're going with that. That makes sense. I didn't notice that there was people missing, because that would definitely be a great argument.
Sure.
Yeah.
The more information we have now 5 years later argument is that Cliff remembers the interaction with his wife that apparently resulted in her death. And it's we could have at one point debated whether or not he killed his wife intentionally. At this time, the novelization that has been released takes away the question of whether or not he killed his wife. But because as Cliff remembers it, they don't show that he intentionally killed his wife.
But you still think he did, don't you? Because he's got that freaking spear gun in his hand, and she's just like pushing his buttons, and you just, it would may have been an accident. I mean, he didn't plan it.
No. It's not an accident. The book makes it clear that it is not.
Did you read the book?
No,
I want to read the book because there is. Quentin did say that there's the whole boat scene is in the book.
Yes.
So you would know if he killed her or not. And then, I would love. Is there copies of that? I want to read that. That's all.
Yeah, it's like an audiobook. You can listen to it, and it's been out for a couple of years.
Okay.
That's why I'm arguing this, and I'm making this part of my argument for why maybe Cliff is misremembering his interaction with Bruce Lee because he's specifically editing his memory of when his wife died,
of course,
to not show us him intentionally killing his wife,
and because he doesn't want to admit it to himself. Probably, I mean, how you get to live with yourself that you killed your wife? I mean, you're a murderer. I mean, he's supposed to be the hero, anti-hero. I mean,
and if while you're being Leonardo DiCaprio's bitch, like you gotta pump yourself up with some good things. But that's going.
That's quite the way to look at it.
I don't know.
I mean, it's very punitive. I mean, but here
people are not that complicated.
But if his history is Leonardo DiCaprio's character. Without DiCaprio, without his that character, he doesn't have a job, and so he's lucky to be a gopher now. Because of whatever reason, whatever happened, he did something.
He's a wife killer, and that's what Randy's now going around saying he's a wife killer. Whereas before, Randy's wife was just like, no, we're not working with that wife killing guy. And then she has an argument because he's beat up Bruce Lee. And I agree with
put a huge dent in her car.
That's my car. Yeah. Right. And like the silliness of like, why would they be there? Why would it seems like a false memory. That I will move off of that topic.
I would say think it would be more of an exaggeration. I mean, maybe.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Maybe Kato, maybe Bruce was there, and maybe he was sitting there, and maybe something not at all like that happened, but that's what he wants to remember, and probably because he doesn't want to remember killing his wife either. He's changed that, even though we don't see what he remembers because they stop before we get that far.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, but still, isn't it cool that we can dissect this character to this point? He did such a good job with that character that we're dissecting, really what happened.
The movie was popular. The movie made money. The movie had an impact on culture. Well, no, I'm going somewhere with this. So, like, we're seeing it right now with The Brutalist being attacked for its AI usage, and as part of the Oscar campaigns get ugly, and this is an example of how. And for Quentin at the time, or for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the time, the whole is it being racist? Is it by dishonor? And like I'm not saying it is. I don't,
because they felt it was misogynistic as well.
But all his movies are misogynistic if you interpret it I don't like unless a past romantic partner comes out and says that he's violent, then I think you can depict violence in movies like David Lynch, who we've talked about in a different segment, you're a fan of. Everyone say his movies are so violent and weird, but every female who's worked with him has said nothing but the best, and that he listens and he's very kind. So like
there you go. Uma Thurman was
wasn't there controversy with that?
She would,
so there is a counter argument.
But it's not necessarily about anything about a conflict between them as man and woman, or as
it's that he put her in an unsafe situation on set. That's a good counter to what I'm saying.
Yeah, he wanted her to drive a car. And she didn't want to do it. And I tried to find the scene within that Kill Bill that she's driving this car, and I don't see any really crazy driving scenes. I mean, maybe she just
the road was bumpy, and the car didn't have. It had older it didn't have the modern shocks that we have, and she had something going on with her back, and it gave her back problems. Is how I understand what happened.
Right, but I think to his argument, it's that, come on, you just
driving down a straight road.
I mean,
with
really,
some bumps.
you want to stunt double for that?
We don't need that.
Just drive.
We're always running out of time and money on set.
She drives up the road and runs into a tree. I mean, I don't. She never forgave him. It took him years to make up.
Well, yeah, the daughter's in this movie, so.
Well, they made up eventually, yes.
Yes.
But then again, that's different than having a.
Sure, the misogyny of violence towards is depicting violence towards women specifically worse in this movie. Rob Zombie in how.
Sure, it's worse.
Because of the smashing the face.
Yeah, they get beat up hardcore in this movie.
But he kicks in the face of the
fire.
What?
One of them gets set on fire.
Well, they're bad. They're evil. They deserve it.
But you don't need to do that much. That's overkill.
I mean, when you're evil like that, there's no man or woman. There's no genitalia attached to this.
They had knives.
Elvis gets his head caved in before the other girl gets hit on the phone and then gets hit against the mantle of the fireplace.
Yeah.
Tex Watson.
Rex. Tex, yes.
Tex.
What's your name, Rex? Tex. That's right, Tex.
Right, Tex.
Nah, it was something dumber.
But again, I don't think you could call that. I mean, just because they're female, you got to look beyond that. They're evil. And that's the other thing that you got to look at is that he is rewriting history and he is giving their just due. These people were all convicted of murder and sentenced to die. California changed the rules, and then they lived, and they, I mean, it's unfortunate that Charles died before he even got to see this film. I think that would have been.
You mean it's unfortunate the CIA killed their asset so that wouldn't come out, because there's the question around how did Charlie Manson get to be so influential and that sort of thing, and.
Because he had the CIA behind him?
There's a book called Chaos that covers what was going on with MK Ultra and how what's his name, Charlie Manson was doing. On the last series of the podcast, we talked about Operation Paperclip, which kind of relates back to Inglourious Bastard. Are you familiar with Operation Paperclip?
No, I
after World War II, we brought over Nazis to work on our space program, and we know that there was some sort of at the beginning of Pineapple Express when they've got the guys smoking weed in the basement. Well, Charlie Manson was subjected to LSD tests and then got a bunch of people together and, they went out and caused terror, clearly. Am I blaming any specific group beyond this? No, I'm just saying that, well, that's interesting, isn't it? That he was tested on by our government and then he went on and got a bunch of people to commit murders, as has been adjudicated up to this point. That's why I want Quentin to make a real conspiracy movie or something. I don't know how he would do it, but it would involve having theories. See, I don't think he gets along with Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone is an elitist, he is. Whereas Quentin Tarantino is very populist.
He since Natural Born Killers, that was the downfall. I mean, he apparently they've made up since then. I mean, obviously I don't know, but this is what Quentin has said. But is it in passing? I see you at a function and, hey man, what's up? But still, there's still this maybe undertone of hostility or resentment, or I don't think they're ever going to work with each other. Obviously, why would they?
Their backgrounds are very different, though.
Yeah,
because Quentin comes from the lower. I'm not castigating him. I'm saying he comes from a lower class single parent background, whereas Oliver Stone was at Yale with the Bushes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, privileged is a good way to put it, but that's why they're coming from such different points of view. Quentin always deals with street level guys. Oliver, does these Lyndon B. Johnson killed at JFK type movies, and that's why I'd like to see there be more of a switch.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. It would be interesting. I would find that I would welcome that totally.
And who knows what this last movie he's going to make is going to be, because. He says he's going to do a play, and I've also read something that he wants to wait until his
Oliver.
No, Quentin Tarantino for his final and 10th movie.
But that was the thing, because he has now qualified that, and he says it doesn't have to be. He's rethinking it.
Well, he's also said things like what he could go on to do would be like TV or something, or do theater. I don't care. The man should do whatever he wants to do, and I'll probably enjoy it either way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to have had someone from the community come over and argue about his movie with me. Quentin Tarantino argued recently that the last year of movies was 2019 when this movie came out.
Oh, before COVID?
Yes, because of COVID.
And then everything after that is
TV and theaters, which has always been the scare. Because like the top 5 movies, the top 20 movies this year are all
HBO or no, what?
Oh no, I just mean all the movies that came into theaters were sequels, and like Quentin Tarantino doesn't do sequels. He doesn't make TV. There's been the accusation.
Kill Bill, Volume 1 and 2. That's that sequel.
No, because it's one completed story. It's
one movie cut in half.
And he shot him at the same time back when they were doing that.
Continuous. He just had to cut in half because it got too long.
I mean, they also shot Back to the Future 2 and 3 at the same time, didn't they?
Is that your argument? Is that you've done sequels? Is that what you'd say to Quentin?
I would qualify it as a sequel. Wouldn't
Kill
you?
Bill?
Yeah, Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
That was because Harvey made him do that so he could make money.
Sure, but I still qualify it as sequels or a sequel.
That's fine. But the argument is that Quentin Tarantino believes that movies have become television. That we go to see Sonic 3, and we go into Sonic 3 knowing we're going to go see Sonic 4. I have children. I have a niece and nephew, and I went to the first Sonic by myself.
Well, that is an argument. I mean, it's unfortunate that there isn't enough thought to create something new. I have to say that I totally love Flow, and that is
the movie that came out. Flow.
It is beautiful.
Oh, I love Flow. That's up there for my top 10 movie of the year.
And it's new, and it's
about the kitty.
And it's I cried.
I took my 4-year-old to go see it.
Oh, wonderful! That's a wonderful. Yeah.
It was made in Blender, which is an off-the-shelf product. It has been used on previous JK production projects.
It's
mostly
cheaper.
Blender.
Yeah.
You have not seen Flow yet, right?
No, I haven't.
brother?
Oh, you got to see it. It's beautiful.
Have you seen Robot Dreams, Paul?
I have not.
So if you liked Flow and the no dialogue nature of Flow, which is antithetical to Quentin Tarantino,
exactly.
This is a good point. You should check out Robot Dreams on Hulu. Okay. It is a dialogue-less movie. You will probably cry. My wife did. When she saw it.
I cry at commercials, man. I'm telling you.
You as a commercial actor cry at commercials.
I
do
some commercials.
I wish I'd gotten that.
I don't bawl.
No,
I sit there in quiet silence, and tears run down my as I try to.
You were a counselor, right? So let me ask you a question I have probably discussed with my wife, who's also a counselor, but haven't asked her this directly. Is it healthy for me as a man to just when I cry, it's by myself in the movie theater? No one knows, even if I'm sitting next to my brother. Is that the healthiest thing to do as a man, as a former counselor who dealt with adolescence?
Let it out.
Yeah. But in my quiet way. See, Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, if you feel comfortable doing that, then that's okay.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I meant to say Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood took shit from Meryl Streep because in Bridges of Madison County, she thought he did a good job of crying, but he put his back to the camera and you could only see it in silhouette. And I mean,
wasn't that an actor's choice or was that a director's choice?
What's the difference when it's Clint Eastwood?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, you can get a lot more out of not actually seeing something and just imagining.
Are you disagreeing with Meryl Streep right now? No, I do too. So I'm trying to argue Meryl Streep's point, even though I don't feel it.
I mean, there's a whole. Well, Jaws is one example.
What you don't see, seeing the shark less makes it scarier. Yes.
There's so many films, and there's another one I can't. We're getting late into the evening now. Believe it or not, we've been doing this for a couple hours, and so now I'm starting to slowly lose it. This is what happens to me, and it's not against you guys.
No.
So my memory is getting even worse than what. But I'm trying to think of. There's another film that has a more subtle nuances to it that creates way more than what you would get if you were just gratuitously able to view.
I can't think of the movie. I was going to give the example of Reservoir Dogs, where what you see of him cutting off the ear is it's not as violent as you think it is, because I remember going back to the scene over and over after him talking about it, and like, no, you don't actually see him like cutting through the ear.
No.
And that I mean, because it would be hard to do.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't show it, but it also makes it worse because what you imagine is worse than what you.
There you go.
Damn it! And I'm now arguing in favor of Quentin Tarantino.
Though I just don't like Tim Roth.
Yeah. What's your problem with Tim Roth?
He cried in the car just horribly when he shot Wally.
In Reservoir Dogs or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make it.
So you think he overdone it then?
Oh, totally. It was way too much. I don't know. I think Quentin, he graduated from that, because then you get to Pulp Fiction. He's talking to the guy that they just picked up from, Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, and he actually shoots him in the head. Boosh. I mean, who's expecting that? I mean, we talk about violence and then there's brain matter everywhere, and he's got it in his afro. He's picking out brain matter. You don't see the actual blowing up of the brain,
You see the result of blowing
You see the
up.
result of it, and you see the splatter. Death Proof. You do see the leg flying out of the car.
You do,
which is a bit.
Oh, that's why you think that one's weaker, is because.
Well, no, not. I don't think it's. In fact, I think that's a good scene. I just think it. Here we have a Quentin Tarantino dialogue. Again, it's a very typical dialogue of a bunch of people sitting around a table talking like Quentin Tarantino, except for this time it's all women, and that's what I saw. I'm like, oh my God, this is a Quentin Tarantino dialogue scene with four people talking, bantering back and forth, saying the exact same things that it was poorly acted. I mean, Kurt Russell did a great job. I think
he's complained about the actors in that movie because he thought some of them didn't come on to set, like what you said about Eric Roberts in a previous segment.
There you go.
I
would agree 100%, and that's why I didn't like it. I thought most of the acting was poorly acted.
We kept working with the stunt woman.
She was good.
Yeah,
she was good enough.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in that movie,
I'm
and
trying to
she's
remember.
since been good in Fargo season 4.
But now I'm picturing the gratuitous foot scene where Kirk comes up and he licks the underside of her foot, which is just ridiculous. It does not have to
gross.
be. Yeah, because how are you going to get away with that? Number one.
What is the next catalog of directors' movies you're going to visit now that you've,
That's a good question, and I think I have to think about that, because there, I recently did. I did all the Marvel. I went through all the Marvel.
Oh, I'm wearing a Marvel shirt as a joke because Quentin Tarantino would probably despise. Marvel is his argument for TV and cinema.
Was it during COVID that I did that?
A lot of people did. People that surprised me came to me and told me that.
Because there's so many different shoots and branches and blah, 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 blah. And I'd seen... Anyways, whatever. So I went through it, and but who's next? Maybe I'm going to take a break for a while.
Of watching movies?
Of watching movies.
Or TV?
Is a continual... I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow actors. I'm going to follow an actor. That's what I'm thinking of doing. I was debating. I don't know.
You were baiting?
I was debating.
Sure.
Because I was thinking of starting over and doing a Brad Pitt one, because I've been, he's been so prevalent in these Quentin films, or Leo.
Well, with Brad, you could do the David Fincher stuff, and
right?
That's fun.
Yeah.
And he did an Aaron Sorkin, so that's good. And I'm sometimes surprised about how many movies of his I have. Movies, Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah,
that's a David Fincher one. That was one of the most nominated. That I think got 13 Academy Award nominations, much like Emilia Perez.
Perez.
No, I believe you put the emphasis on the first syllable because of the accent.
Now, is that a musical?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why I don't want to see it.
You don't like musicals?
I'm not a big musical fan, but I have to say, I thought that Wicked was fantastic. I cried on that one. I loved Wicked. In fact, I had bought the book like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had tried to read it off and on for the last 20 years and not get past page 1, because it's so difficult to read. I mean, it really has. It's way above my level intelligence. It's written in such a way, like there's words in there like, why would you describe it in this way? There's a sentence that I don't recognize one single word in. But then there's paragraphs and pages that are just marvelous. The story's just marvelous.
Are you talking about the because
book.
you finished
I'm
the
talking
book?
about the book.
Okay.
I'm still reading the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The book is completely different than the movie.
Wait, do you know what's going to happen? Have you seen the play?
I did not see the play.
Okay, so you don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Cool,
yeah,
cool.
because I haven't seen part 2 yet. It hasn't come out.
Yep,
But I'm like, I got like 100 pages left of the book. And the book is completely different.
I'm aware.
So, did you read the book?
No.
Okay.
I went through a deep dive of summaries for these things for when we did the Wicked debate.
Got it.
And then I got into, because you know how many books were written back in like the early 1900s for the original Wizard of Oz series? There were like 13 to 16 books.
Really?
Yeah. And there was
Same
a point,
author?
Well,
Right.
he licensed it out at some points, and then he would keep writing them to make money at later points, like
Wow.
especially in the 30s when
Okay.
like the movie was going to come out, and then it went for another couple of years. And yeah,
So these are prequels, or these are more to the story?
there's sequels.
Sequels, yeah.
There's sequels to the Wicked book you're reading that deal with the offspring of folks that you have met so far.
Okay,
And at
yeah.
one point, the Cowardly Lion becomes the ruler of Oz. I think that's book 3.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So, I mean...
Because he is an animal with a capital A.
Yes, because they have that...
Distinguished between animals and animals. Because animals are cattle, and you can eat an animal, but you can't eat an animal, of course, because they talk.
Yeah.
And they think, and they have,
Arthur has a dog. There's the comedian who was big in the 80s out of the West Coast who talked about that as one of his...
Bingo! That guy is
No.
make me a sandwich.
No, it was like a dirty comedian who came from... His dad was a preacher or something.
Oh.
I'm not even going to try to remember it.
Okay.
He was famous for what, like had HBO specials and that sort of thing. Can't remember.
He wasn't on Saturday Night Live for...
No.
brief-
This is too R-rated for that kind of thing. Comedy store kind of guy.
Joe Piscopo, that's what I was thinking of.
No, it wasn't Joe Piscopo.
Because remember, he had his 15 minutes. I mean, he was a little bit longer than that, and I think he did a couple of things that were a little bit too much back in that era, and it got kind of got him labeled.
You mean the 80s?
The 80s, yeah.
Okay.
And then he just never. I mean, because he didn't quite make it. You know, I mean, he did for a while, and then what happened to him?
Oh, well, it's kind of like the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, what are you going to get beat up by man from Uncle?
Yeah.
Lady from Uncle?
Yeah, and it's just ruining your character, which that's a really good point. So his character is trying to make that jump into to being a Hollywood star, and he quits his film. We're back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he quits his show, which was a popular, successful show, and he upsets his audience. He upsets Hollywood because he thinks that he can make it as an actor, movie actor. And a lot of people did that back then. And I remember in the 80s, or I think it was more like the 80s, actors trying to make that leap. And you'd see him on a movie, and you'd be like, "No, I ain't gonna go watch that movie." Tom Selleck's in it. Forget it. You know what I mean? I don't know, whoever. You know what I mean?
Well, Sidney Poitier said to Denzel Washington, "Why would they pay to go see you at the movie theater when they can see you every week at home?"
There you go. Right? And usually the films were pretty bad. And it was probably unfortunate that they couldn't get a bigger director to use them, because the bigger director could only see what they were pigeonholed as.
Well, that's why George Clooney moved from ER and then did From Dusk Till Dawn. And
there are some that did make it, of course. Steve McQueen, George Clooney. There are a few.
Steve McQueen's a bitch in this movie. He should not be. And Damian Lewis doesn't look like him. I don't really care, but like, okay. But Steve McQueen would like. What does Sean Connery say in The Rock? the quarterback goes home and fucks the prom queen. Steve McQueen wouldn't be at the Playboy Mansion talking about like, oh, there's Sharon Tate over there with those two dweebs. What are we gonna do? Hot girl I'm talking to about some other girl. Like, that's dumb.
And there's also an urban legend that Steve McQueen was supposed to meet up. Well, see, here's the thing. Steve McQueen was really good friends with Jay Sebring. And that's probably why they would have met at the Playboy Mansion.
Because of the hair?
Because they were great friends.
Yeah, but Sebring was a hair guy.
He was a hair guy, but they still could be friends.
Oh, John Peters was a hair guy.
So what was the urban legend is that Steve McQueen was supposed to go back to Sharon Tate's to this party, and he just missed being killed. But it's not true. The truth is that they went out to eat for dinner, and maybe he was invited to dinner, and he would have gone to dinner, and Sharon wanted to go home because she was 8.5 months pregnant, and she didn't feel good. So there wasn't going to be a party. Quincy Jones was supposed to be there as well.
Do you think that Steve McQueen would have had sex with 8.5 month pregnant Sharon Tate?
He was
Can't
married.
get her pregnant? Oh.
He was married at the time.
That's not an argument. In
Get her
Hollywood?
pregnant.
But no, well, here's the thing. This is what happened. This is the reason why they say that he didn't show up, is because even though he was married, he was out hustling up a prostitute, and he used a payphone to call and he got mugged in West Hollywood, and this is true. And then he went back to his car because he had a gun in his car, because Steve McQueen always drove around with a gun, and he hunted down the dude that mugged him, and he re-mugged him. And he held him up.
I don't think it's re-mugging.
Well, that's just the way they say it, because it's funny, right? So he got his wallet back, and then he proceeded to pay for a prostitute.
Wow, nice.
And that's
priorities.
That's why he didn't make it to Sharon Tate's.
He totally would have doinked Sharon Tate. Come on.
No.
If he could have.
Not 8 months
Wouldn't get her pregnant. She's already pregnant.
I don't think that's his concern.
Well, maybe some people may see. Now we see something coming out of you. Maybe you have a pregnant woman fetish. Because I totally can't see it. I'd be like, no way, man. I'm not touching it.
I have 2 children with my wife, so I, at a point might have had to,
You might have.
So I don't know. This seems reasonable that someone could find a pregnant woman attractive. I don't know what you're saying. That's all. But yes, totally a fetish of mine.
And so, in the end of the film, again, before the Batman and Robin commercial, where they're talking about if you can figure out the telephone number to the Batcave, then you can win a lunch with us on set, and you can win a free ride. You can win a ride in the Batmobile, and which is so innocent to me, because I know if you think about that, I mean, it's a child that's trying to do this, and it's a child that has this ideal of
hanging out with Batman.
Adam
West.
So in reality, what has happened is that this. Because you know the reality, even though Quentin changes the reality, the reality is that Sharon Tate got murdered. She got a fork stuck in her pregnant stomach, and her child was killed. She was hung from one of the rafters, and she was still alive.
Yeah,
she didn't die she died from bleeding to death, but they hung her as well. They hung her. They tied a rope around her neck and Jay Sebring's, and he was already dead. So his body, In the end of this, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they kill, they burn, they stab, the dog chows down.
Heads caved in.
That is a little gratuitous. I mean,
what's interesting is that they hang Domergue at the end of Hateful Eight, and then he goes into this. So for him to have just hung a woman in his last movie, and then to go into making the movie about Sharon Tate where she doesn't die, something I'd argue against this movie is that the extra textual information makes it good.
Okay. Yeah.
You're supposed to debate me.
I know, but I didn't want to lose my point, because I'm still working up to the point.
Sorry.
That's
go ahead.
okay.
Go to your point.
Throughout the film, they refer to the Manson people as these fucking hippies, and they don't say hippies unless it's fucking hippies, until they're being interviewed at the end, when I can't remember if it's Pitt or DiCaprio that says these hippie assholes. because they're talking to the cops about what happened. And Leonardo's sitting in the driveway, and Sebring comes down and says, "What the fuck happened here?" And then Leonardo gets invited up to Sharon Tate's house to meet and hang with these people that he's kind of been in awe of.
Yes.
Yeah, and, since he's been. And she opens the gate, and the gate slowly creaks open, and it just feels like it's very difficult to open. I mean, this is a new universe. And then you get this Twilight Zone fucking music playing, and it's not totally Twilight Zone. It's like a 1960s Western sitcom Twilight Zone, but it's spooky enough with the gate opening that this is the universe has opened, and this is the change. And he, instead of having Sharon Tate die and Sebring and Folger and the baby and there was one survivor. The guy, the caretaker, lived. The caretaker's buddy came to sell him a clock, and the caretaker said, "No, I don't want it." He went back to his car. Tex Watson saw him get in his car, and he fucking beat him and shot him. And that's bad luck. The guy the caretaker, he was tripping. He closed his door, listened to music. He didn't know what was going on, but at some point he did hear somebody. Anyways, but so the closing of Quentin's film, and this gate, it's just, and then he walks up. And then you see this high shot of Leonardo meeting, and he's so polite. Yes. I mean, he's just so polite. It's just this humble politeness of this guy that.
Well, because he wants Roman Polanski to cast him in a movie.
Well, he does, but you can't fake that politeness. He's.
Oh, you live in Minnesota. You can fake that politeness every day, for fuck's sake.
He did such a good job. He did such a great job acting that. That's the good enough faking that I would believe it.
It's because she was a woman in her 20s.
And she was pregnant 8.5 months, and he wanted to fuck her.
Yeah, I meant that because Leonardo DiCaprio is famous for not dating women his age, and he was in his late 40s. That's all I meant. Which actually makes that scene with Margaret Qualley kind of gross, because she's in her late teens, early 20s.
Oh, she's but
in the movie, reality, she's supposed to be younger than that.
Yeah, she's supposed to be younger than 18.
I understood the scene, and that's why Brad Cliff is actually decent, because he might kill his wife, and he might have knocked the crap out of this Asian guy that was playing a serious lead, but he would not accept a blowjob from a 17-year-old or 16-year-old or whatever her age is supposed to be.
He had his limits. There's just certain things he wouldn't go to. It was an accident, man. It was a, No,
in the book, they tell you, in the book, it's definitive. And I like knowing that when I watch the movie now.
We're no spoilers now. Tell me, what is it? What does the book say? Definitive that he killed her?
Yeah.
How did they describe it? And he turns and he takes the.
I read this section when the book came out because it was in like the trades at the time.
Tell me.
I don't know. I don't remember. Okay. I didn't do that research going into this. I watched Hateful Eight, the extended version, and I watched. Yeah.
I want to know. I'm
go look it up. I mean,
I will now. Yeah.
And there are many things to talk about. I didn't know. I hadn't retained all those.
It's such a great scene. I mean, she is such a.
You can say bitch.
Bitch.
We know.
But she's pushing his buttons. My girlfriends told me you were a piece of shit loser. Here I'm on this piece of shit fucking loser boat. I've been sitting on this piece of shit loser boat with a piece of shit loser for a fucking hour. What the fuck
I was watching that scene with my wife, and we had a conversation about it. Like, why would either of these people be in this situation? Like, choose to not be in this situation if you're
oh yeah, but that happens all the time.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
I understand that it does, but as my wife and I choose to be in the situation with each other where we're married, when we see things like that, it's like, oh man, I
good
understand.
For you guys, you're healthy.
Well, that's the goal, I would hope.
Yes, of course. No,
I'm sorry, but I appreciate that.
I'm proud of you.
Quentin has now gone on to get married and have children. So
Yeah.
he clearly understands something about that, I guess is what I'm arguing for.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to like brag about my marriage. I'm just saying that
No, you should brag about your marriage if you have a good marriage, man. That's
you brag to your wife, you brag to your mother, and that's it. That's what
you
a man
brag to
does.
the whole world now. So
No, I didn't. I said that the point I was making is that my wife and I had a conversation.
He's like, oh, he's digging himself out.
And then digging, oh no, I overpraised my healthy relationship with my wife. You know,
I love it, man. I think that's awesome.
No, but that's why scenes like that I think are good in movies. To our early conversation about misogyny, like how would people know what good doesn't look like unless it was represented for them in some way?
Yeah,
that's how I look at Quentin Tarantino movies. Is like they're not supposed to be the good people; they are the lower level bad people.
But I don't think most people would take that. That's not their takeaway, though. I don't think.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Well, that's just one scene, though. You know, I mean, it depends on. It's a microcosm of a portion of a film, and if it allows you to have a moment with your loved ones that you can reflect off of, then I think that's
I
really
forced
cool.
this movie on my adopted parents, even though I knew they wouldn't like it. They were entertained, but they didn't like it. It's kind of like Uncut Gems. It was a very good movie. I did not like it. I like doing that to Midwestern people sometimes.
Not liking things?
No, like they know it's going to be entertaining and they know it's well made, but they don't like it. I felt that way about the Bob Dylan movie. It was like, I feel this is well made. I don't like this guy.
Oh, you didn't like it? You didn't like the character? You didn't like Timothée Chalamet's?
I thought Timmy's great. Turbo Timmy is fantastic. I don't like this part of this artist's history being venerated and the way it was depicted, because I think that it shows someone being an unhealthy colleague. Because he doesn't like talk to people and he's actively a jackass.
Yeah.
But
that is who he was, right? I mean,
I'm in no position to judge somebody from when they were younger than I am now. But
I don't know. Yeah, but that's kind of like what the interviews were, and and the other kind of. I mean, it was like an amalgamation of.
I thought it was a well-made movie.
Yeah.
It's not something I'll probably watch it again.
Okay.
That I just don't. It reinforces what I already did not like that I knew about Bob Dylan.
So then you didn't. Were you? So you weren't a Bob Dylan fan to begin with.
I'm more of a Cat Stevens fan than I am.
But you're less of a Bob Dylan fan now, even after the movie.
It doesn't affect how I feel about his music, to be quite honest with you.
So you're just neutral.
I'm annoyed that there are people who like Bob Dylan and David Lynch more than I like them.
Okay.
And
I thought it was, because I didn't like him. I mean,
I heard you. I took you seriously.
Yeah. But I dislike Adam. Oh, just totally dislike Joan Baez.
What?
Because her music, I just can't stand it.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sure she doesn't sound like that all the time.
That's impressive.
That's how I hear.
No, the impression was very good. It's not how I hear her at all. It sounded like you were summoning a spirit, to be quite honest with you, and that scared me. Maybe the dead spirit of Sharon Tate. I don't know. What would hell be for someone from California being in Minnesota in January? Come on. The question is going to be, what should people look forward to get them to listen to the next episode, which will be your interview that we did first in this conversation.
Oh, well, you'll get to hear. There was so much more to my story when I made up that resume, and then I would get a gig and I would take something off and I would add that, and I kept doing that until my resume was all legitimate stuff.
Fake it till you make it.
I'm just telling you. I mean, you couldn't do that today. And there's no way that social media would, you'd be busted. There's just no way you could go in there and say that I've done all these films and all these things and not done absolutely nothing.
But that means everyone else was doing it. If you thought to do it, so many other people
This is probably true. And I find that more and more every day whenever something happens to me and I think, fuck. And then I go, you know what? And then I read everybody, I'm average. There's nothing. Most of us are average, and you think you got something better. No, everybody has got it.
Actually, I will give Quentin Tarantino credit for putting his fetish out there on Front Street. Is that having now talked through a couple? No, excuse me. Having talked through a couple of movies that deal with people's fetishes, we'll call them.
Is it a fetish? I mean, again, when I was saying before my friend pointed out that that he loved feet. Yeah. I mean, I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I didn't notice it. I mean, I saw the feet.
But what about every other movie?
But it all seemed appropriate. I mean, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Sure.
And I didn't think about the other ones. I mean,
but then there's like when she puts on the shoe and takes off the shoe in Inglourious Bastards. There's the.
but she's putting on. But that's integral to the scene because he's got
He
the
writes
shoe.
it in.
But I know, but it makes sense, right?
She takes off her shoes in Pulp Fiction. Like this is not, and
Yeah,
you've got Jackie Brown with Bridget Fonda. I'm just saying that you mentioned the foot in. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm happy to be made to feel average in my. I don't think I've got anything weird, but now having watched Baby Girl and all of Quentin Tarantino's movies, it's like, yeah, I'm boring, and
There you go,
I
right?
think
There you
I'm
go.
happy
There you
to
go.
be boring.
That's just right. That's exactly it. I mean I don't know what you inside what you may have. I mean you may have something secret.
I hope you don't
It's
try to
safe
find out.
space.
You know,
I don't-
Safe
I
space.
don't-
We all share here. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure probably chances are. But there may be a hidden fetish that either one of you may have. I don't know.
sure, and I accept
it
that.
might
I
show up
may
in a J.K. Productions short film.
what?
It might just show up in a J.K. Productions.
See, that
short
implies
film.
that we've got something that's going to show up. There is not.
Furries or something or
Definitely
Pugilism,
not.
actually.
there you go. A homopedal necrophile.
What? What?
I don't know.
Pugilism is
Boxing.
yes.
A homopedal necrophile would be a person who is
Sex
gay
with dead bodies.
who likes young boys but likes them dead.
Oh.
Oh.
What? Why did you learn that word?
Yeah.
Because I counsel the
Oh.
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, and see, that's a good pull for the next episode, the interview section, where we talk about some of your background.
there you go. You will learn about my background now from that from that scene that interview section that we shot prior.
The homo necro. But
Homopedal necrophile.
yeah, gross. I mean, obviously, I hope they found peace in their life
Yes.
or whatever, and didn't have any undue. But
Thank you guys. You were awesome. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
yes, thank you for being on the podcast, Paul Economon.
Thank you.